الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد أما بعد عباد الله. All praise due to Allah, and His praise and blessings and peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and his followers until the day of judgment. I bear witness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of worship, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his last and final messenger. My brothers and sisters, I chose the topic of my khutbah today inspired by a time that I spent as a volunteer at my youngest daughter's school, an elementary school, where I noticed they were talking to the kids about what will be the logical ways of solving problems. And the teacher asked the kids, 4th grade, to lay down 5 different ways of solving problems. You know, how would you solve the problems? Any problem that you have. Backtrack, chart, and all this kind of, different methods. Then the younger one, they had a class and the teacher were talking to them about how to differentiate between facts and opinions. And it's very interesting that to see that kids are from this early age are trained to think, because kids by nature have a very simple way of thinking, a very simplistic way of thinking. But as they grow, as we help them as adults to become more sophisticated, their brain grow tremendously and became very powerful, which is something very unique about the human being. Many of our problems today that I deal with as an adult in my own life, and many people that I deal with today, and the community level, country level, international level, you name it, most of the time we try to deal, I found that we deal with symptoms. We don't really deal with the cause root of the problem. Many times we don't reevaluate the way we think about things, the way we approach things. We're very simplistic in the way we approach the problems in our life. And what basically I call, or if I might use that term, we have a lot of logical fallacies that we use to solve our problems. A lot of wishful thinking that we have, and we think that this is how the problem will be solved. For instance, this man and this woman, they have family problems. They fight all the time. Then they divorce her 1, 2 times, and now coming back together, Shaykh, we want you to bring us back. And I said, okay, you're gonna go back to each other. Why did you leave each other for the first time? They said, because 1, 2, 3 reasons. Okay, have anything changed in 1, 2, 3? No. So basically, what's going to happen? You're going to come next time and say, can you find a way after the 3rd divorce or 4th or 5th, way here, basically an exit, or give me a rukhsa or fatwa, whatever you'll be seeking. If you take the same road every day, you're going to arrive to the same destination every day. That's a very simple way of thinking, but unfortunately, as simple as it sounds, as far away from the reality this is. And by looking at several points that I want to point out today, or things that I have noticed in my life and the life of many people that I deal with in life, that this way of thinking you need to reevaluate it to see if you have this problem or not, and the way you see things, you analyze things. And one of them is what I call it al-haddiyya fi tafkir, which is people, al-haddiyya, it's a very unique word in Arabic. It has 2 meanings. The first one is the too extreme. So there is people, they always go to either one of the 2 opposites. They can't go to the middle. It's either 0 or 100. It's either perfect or nothing. It's either you are my friend, my best friend, or you are my worst enemy. They can't basically take a middle path. So if he likes a sheikh, he will not allow anything to be said about him. If he like anything, he will be so extreme in his love and loyalty and and support that will not allow himself or anyone to criticize such person. And if he hates someone or had a negative perception about someone, he will completely block anything good about him. If it's a book, if it's a group, if it's a movement, if it is an idea, whatever it is, a masjid, whatever you name it. And it's very needed for us, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَاعْدِلُوا وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا اعْدِلُوا هُوَ أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. All these verses saying that part of justice is to stay balanced. A lot of justice is balance. A lot of people think about justice being in the middle. Maybe, but I would love always to use the word balance. One of the most important thing for you, it's important to be moderate, but for me, more important than being moderate person is to be balanced person, to balance between things. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said about the king of Abyssinia, who was not a believer, who don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger, the Quran. He believed that Allah thalithu thalatha, Allah one of three. But still the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, فَإِنَّ فِيهَا مَلِكًا لَا يُظْلَمُ عِنْدَهُ أَحَدٌ. This is a just king. Nobody will treat it unfairly there. I hope that we don't let our emotion, negative or positive, close our eyes from seeing the reality, from seeing the right thing, from seeing what is correct. And also, another meaning of the word hadiyya, it means, comes from shay al-had, which it means very narrow vision. And this is very interesting. There's a lot of people love to put themselves in a situation which they strip themselves from options. The worst thing in life, the worst way of thinking is always to put yourself between yes or no. It is either this or nothing. That's one of the worst positions. There is very few things in life like that. I agree. But there is very few, but not everything you treat it this way. It's either that or nothing. Like it is basically you strip yourself from the options. And that's a problem. That's a psychological problem, in my opinion. Dealing with yourself as a leader in community where you don't give people choices. When you don't give people the options. And Sharia filled of this. It's basically, some people, I'll give you a practical example. Some people, they tell you this. Either you do it or you don't talk about it. Either you fix it, but you don't criticize it. If somebody come to my masjid and said, Shaykh Waleed, I noticed something in the masjid is not doing right. Then I said to him, hey, you go fix it or don't talk about it. What kind of nonsense is that? That's not correct. Some people, accept people criticism, accept people nasiha. It doesn't need to be him the one who has to fix. Don't be so narrow. Don't tell him either you do it or you don't talk about it. Sometimes also, we think that work for Islam has to be done from that narrow angle. I will never forget, I was traveling to Chicago to give a lecture. And I saw a very old friend, I know him from Saudi Arabia, and I was surprised to see him here in Madrasa Islamiyah. He gave me a hug. I know him when I was a kid, so it's really was amazing for him even to remember how I look like now. So he used to be the Imam Masjid where I go and attend classes, and even I taught there. So anyway, to make the story short, I told him I'm going to Chicago, yes, tomorrow, but when I come back, I would like to see you. He was so happy. Are you going to Chicago tomorrow? I said, yes. So excited about it. Nothing in Chicago to make you excited. So, and he said, Allahu Akbar, Andrej. And finally, I found he's from Jama'at Tabligh. So he's going khuruj with Jama'at Tabligh to Chicago tomorrow. Akhuna billah, he thought, I'm going khuruj with them. So I said to him, yeah, but I'm not going for the Tablighi Jama'ah's, practice. I have a lecture that I'm going to do, so I'm glad that we both serving Islam. And I'm fine with that. He was so upset. He said, no. Your traveling doesn't count. Like that. I said, why it doesn't count? He said, you have to come with us. I said, yes, but I do have, a program, and I do this, and I serve Islam. He thinks that I have to serve Islam only through his way. Obviously, does not judge the whole entire movement, but I just give you a real example in life. There is some people like that. They think I serve Islam through interfaith work. So he thinks that the whole community has to work with interfaith. Some people very active in politics. He thinks that everybody, and the only way to serve Islam is through voting and through being active in politics. That's not true. Islam can be served by so many different ways. I don't need to exclude you to make myself successful. That's not correct. We have to live that life where we see that we complement another. That symptoms that you see in the society coming deep, the deep root and cause for it is that way, that mentality, that way of thinking, that it is my way. I don't think even there's a highway. It's only my way. And I see this is the only way to go through. Al-Jannah, ya akhi, doesn't have one door, have 8 gates, and some ulama said more than 8 gates. And some people want, he look at Islam also in a very narrow way. Or for example, you have to have one madhab, and you have to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through that madhab, otherwise you are nothing. Either you take that shaykh or you're not acceptable. The only man in Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered us to follow him completely is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the only group we're supposed to follow, only one group in Islam, which is as-Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the companions. Other than them, there is no obligations to me to be a follower of particular group or particular individuals. Also, another one, sometimes in marriage, I see this is also happen a lot in marriage. Who you want to get married to? I want to marry a girl who is so beautiful. Okay, what else? I mean, beautiful. Okay, there is anything else? Then that's the only narrow vision he sees. Okay, I want someone who is, for example, religious, which is important to be religious. But what is that the only thing you look for? In Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam give many reasons people marry for. But what if you marry a religious woman who, mashallah, fast the days and make qiyam al-layl, but she's a stingy woman? How would you deal with that? What if you marry a guy, mashallah, he's so religious, but his culture is completely, you completely nothing to share with him in culture. You love spicy food, he loves mild food. He loves to eat out, you don't go out. He's outdoor, you're indoor. You're so lazy, she's so active. He's so generous, you're so, tight. What if there's a lot of what if no connections, a lot of language barriers? What's the Quran will benefit you at that time in the salah and the siyam? After 2-3 months, you're going to come and say, I want to get divorced. Because you only look at very narrow area. I want a rich man. And so forth, you can see. And this has happened a lot into many aspects in life. Sometimes people even test you and will judge you through one political position or incident and will X you. So if you said this, oh my God, he is backwards, he's a conservative, strict, or he is so liberal, he's this, he's that. Test you. What is your position from such country, from such political ideas or figures? And if you say whatever they don't like or they agree with, you will be immediately judged and classified. That's also wrong. To judge me through that narrow angle, that's the Khawarij. They used to go on the street and ask people, what do you believe in Ali? What do you believe in the tahkim? Basically the peace and reconciliation between Ali and Muawiyah. If you say anything against what they believe, they will X you. Recently, in memory of the death of Bush, the former president of the United States, somebody becomes so angry and classify people, put his wrath on people. Why? It's just because somebody feel, a positive, or he liked the former President Bush who just passed away. Oh my God. Immediately he put him in the side of the devil and the bad and the criminal war, and he bring all the history of Iraq, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't need to be that way. Maybe he doesn't really go to that far. So this very narrow vision of judging people is terrible. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala أن يوسع مداركنا ومدارككم نجعلنا وإياكم موفقين أقول ما سمعتم واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد. One of the interesting way of thinking that I see is people assuming by not bearing the responsibility of something that they are not responsible for it. It's kind of funny. Just because you convince yourself it's not my responsibility, it doesn't mean that it's really not your responsibility. You can claim as much as you want, it's not your responsibility. Or you blame someone else for it, or you say that's responsibility of someone else. The reality is, if this is something you're responsible for it, you have to stand up for it. You have to take the responsibility for it. There is like people follow this method. These problems made by our grandfathers, and it will be solved by our grandchildren. And we are in between, have nothing to do with it. As we say in Arabic, يعيش بين الأقواس. I'm not related to this. I have nothing to do with creating this problem, nor I have anything to do with solving it. But the reality is you're living it. You're a part of it. Sometimes when I tell people, what is our role in community and society here to do? Shaykh Waleed, we didn't cause this problem. Yeah, but we're living it. Our children living it. We have to bear some of the responsibility towards basically these problems and the solutions that we should offer. And a lot of people think that this is not, where is the Shaykh? Where is the Islamic centers? Where is the institutes? Where is the school? Where is this? Where is this? Where is the government? And basically, it's amazing how the Quran, when you speak to people, if you look the whole Quran, how many verses Allah address a specific group? If you read the Quran, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, O who you believe, a common factor between all community members, the believe, or all human being, and so forth. So that's make you understand that the responsibility falls on the shoulder of each and every one of us according to your ability. So, saying that this is the responsibility for those group or that particular group in society doesn't mean that to free you from the responsibility as well. Also, one of the wishful thinking or the fallacy, I guess, logical fallacy that I see, exaggeration. Some people exaggerate things to the extent that they live in no reality. They live somewhere between Mars and, maybe Pluto or something like that. Yeah, somewhere far away from Earth. Some cold place in the space. It's amazing how people, they're not very unrealistic completely. Some people, when they approach any issue, even if it is a real victory, they make that victory as, oh my God, this is khalas, the greatest victory ever happened in the world. Or a problem or a disaster, they make it the worst things ever happened to them. That way of thinking and looking and viewing things impact your behavior, how you deal with it, how you see the world, how you view the world, how your actions and your action plan will be. I think it is so important to put it in its right perspective. Growing up in the 80s, one of the biggest issues that we have in the 80s at that time is the Afghan war. The Afghan war against Russia. I would never forget growing up among people that they think that the Afghani people are angels, came down to earth to fight. We read about the karamat al-awliya, the miracles that happen in their hands, and the way they talk about it, oh, unbelievable. And the moment the Russians were defeated and Kabul fell, I still remember that. وَسَقَطَتْ Kabul. Khutbah, I never forgot. The Khatib in Riyadh was talking. I felt like, mashallah, this is like, you know what, Abu Bakr time or Umar time. Then break a bloody civil war, unbelievable for 10 years. Where are all these angels? A lot of people, the reaction, they hated the deen, they hated the religious people. We will do the best center ever in the world. They oversell, they exaggerate. We the best school, bring your kids to my school, he will come this and that. We exaggerate, we intend to exaggerate. What happened when you do that, you fool yourself so you don't see a need for real work. What happened, you fool people and their reaction will become severe of rejecting you and your ideas. When you exaggerate the mistakes of the ummah, the mistakes that you do yourself, there is no space for you to see halaktu la mahala, there is no way I will survive. And so forth. We exaggerate the problem of our spouses. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, don't hate your spouse. If you hate something in her, or your wife, or apply to husband, there's many other things you might love in them as well. So this is so important as well, is when we basically deal with things to be very moderate in the way that we approach it, and we get away from that exaggerations. And part of it definitely, I would say, the concept of conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories sometimes are correct. I'm not against it 100%. But maybe 10%, but 90% of them are not true. It's a form of exaggeration. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and to think correct. And believe me, this is something we need to train each other. We need to challenge each other mentally. We need to speak with logic more. We need people to read more. That will help a lot. You need to care for your children, not to be just emotional. I always say it's okay to follow your heart, but don't forget to take your brain with you. You know, just don't go without it. It is okay to have strong emotion, but it's not okay to let your emotion control you and control your thinking. Remember, your aql in the top of your body. So it's in control. It's not in your feet. It's not down in your stomach. It's on the top. So that's why it's in control. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala أن يوفقنا وإياكم لكل خير وأن يبعد عنا وإياكم كل شر وأن يرزقنا وإياكم الإخلاص في القول والعمل. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها مولاها لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجمع على الحق كلمتنا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تنصر المستضعفين في كل مكان والمظلومين في كل مكان. اللهم يا رب السماوات والأرض يا حي يا قيوم احقن دماء المستضعفين من المسلمين المظلومين في سوريا والعراق وفي كل مكان وفي الروهنجا وفي أفريقيا وآسيا وغيرها من بلاد الدنيا يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم فرج عن المظلومين ظلما يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تولي على المسلمين خيارهم وأن تبعد عنهم شرارهم وأن تصلح ولاتهم. اللهم إنا نسألك أن ترفق بإخواننا في فلسطين وأن تعز أهل فلسطين يا ذا الجلال والإكرام وأن تحرر مقدساتهم وأن تجعل دائرة السوء على من خذلهم وأن تجعل دائرة السوء على من ظلمهم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام أن تحسن ختامنا وأن تشفي مرضانا وأن ترحم موتانا وأن تغني غنينا وأن تغني فقيرنا وأن تبارك في أموالنا وأولادنا وأوقاتنا وأعمالنا وأن تستعملنا في طاعتك حتى تقبضنا إليك غير مفتونين ولا مغيرين ولا مبدلين يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل اللهم وسلم على نبينا محمد وقوموا إلى الصلاة يرحمكم الله.